So to make this posy, you will need to have an old book. You'll need some coloured paper. A sheet of A4 will be plenty for the tea rose, and you need about half an A4 for the leaves. You can choose any colour you like for these. This one is like a peach shimmer, and this one is just an olive kind of green. So you'll also need the templates. You can download these from my website, or you can make your own. The links to do both these things is in the video description. You'll need petal template number 1 and number 2, and leaf template number 1. There's going to be other leaf templates in the future, so I'm going to specify one for now. Glue wise, you'll want some wallpaper paste, and again the link for mixing this up is in the video description. You will need some PVA glue and some high tack glue. If you don't have both, I'd recommend this one, and if you don't have this one, then PVA will work. It will just mean it will take a little longer to dry. You'll also need some thread, some twine, some flexible wire, and some florist tape. You'll also need some scissors, and it will also come in handy later to have an old tea towel. You'll also need to have some kind of a wooden stick or an old paintbrush to curl the petals on the tea rose. And you'll also need some regular kitchen foil. This kitchen foil is quite thin and it's 30 centimeters long. And what we need to do is just tear 3 strips. That's about 20 centimeters. This doesn't have to be too precise. It can be over, under a little bit, but definitely, not too much under, but it doesn't matter if it's over. And we'll take the foil and we want to fold it in half 3 times. Scrunch it in at one end and then just roll it down and twist it. And what we've got is a nice, flexible but firm stem. And do this for the other 2. Now what we need to do is to cut the book page petals. And for this we need template number 1. And we'll tear 2 lots of 4 pages from the book. If you're familiar with how to make the regular novella rose, which is what we're making for this one, then you can skip over to the tea rose or the binding. Just go and have a look at the chapters in the video description. So we'll take our book pages, all 4 together, and fold them in half. Take your template and line it up to the edge of the text and simply cut around it. You don't have to be incredibly precise, but it's a good idea to try and keep the edges of the petals smooth. At some point I will show you how to make petals with a shaped or patterned edge, but that's a bit further down the line. So make 3 cuts from each of your set of book pages. As a general rule, for the basic novella rose, I cut 3 lots of 8 petals for each rose so that I've got plenty spare, because sometimes you'll get bits of text where there's no writing. Technically that's not a bit of text, is it? There's no writing. But you'll get parts of the book page that have no writing on. So we want to make 2 of the standard novella roses, and if you haven't seen this before, we lay out 3 rows of 6 petals, any with a blank side I'll just put to one side. I put 2 extra to the right hand side and all the spares to the left. Now these ones with a blank side on one side and text on the other are perfect for the centre of the rose. So to make the centre of the rose, we fold over the right hand corner and roll it in so that we've got a nice point, and we made a little cone shape. We'll pop some wallpaper paste inside the cone shape, pop in our stem, squeeze it to hold it in place, and then we'll bind it in place with the thread. At this stage I like to put a blob of wallpaper paste on each of the petals, pick up our stem and take the first petal from the bottom row, and with the curl facing towards us, line up the petal on the stem and wrap it around, except that one's got no writing on the back, so I'm going to switch that out. Crafting problems, huh? Try again. Huh, that one's blank as well. Should we find one that isn't blank on there? Oh my goodness me, they've all got half text. There we go, that one will do. Right, a blob of wallpaper paste. And this is why we have spares. So with the curl facing towards us, we'll line this up on the stem, curl the petal around the stem, and then bind in place with the thread. The next one we want to place directly opposite. And for all the rest of the petals, we simply line up the middle of the new petal to the edge of the previous petal. And just keep adding in this way to build up all of the petals on the rose. These roses are very easy to customise. You could even put little pearl and diamante beads in the middle. Go take a look at my tutorials and my playlists to find that video to show you how to do that. And if you do have a go at making this, it would be really nice to hear from you. And if you've got any questions at all, do leave them in the comments below. Now I don't mind so much if the outer petals of the rose have no writing on them, but at the centre I like to have full text. So add the last petal in the usual way and then twist several times all the way down the stem. Snip it off and hold it in place with some wallpaper paste. This is such thick and gloopy paste that it really does hold everything in place nicely. And the rose itself now looks a bit sorry for itself, so we'll just tease the petals open with our fingertips. You can pull them up again if you need to. There, lovely. So we need to make 2 of these roses. I won't record both of them. I'll use the power of video, and next time you see me there'll be 2. So we have both of our book page roses now, and what I'm going to do is just set them aside to dry. This may take a little while, so I usually leave them overnight to dry, but in the meantime we can prepare the leaves and we can prepare the tea rose. So to cut the petals for the tea rose, we need to have petal template number 2. And what we want to do, I should mention this paper is 120 GSM, and the number of petals that you'll need for your finished rose will depend greatly on the thickness of your paper. But what I like to do is fold the paper so that the template fits. So I'll fold it once, twice, 3 times. And so each cut will give us 4 petals. And because of the folds, I'll just trim across the bottom as well. And I'd normally need about 16 or so petals. So I'll lay the petals out in 3 rows of 5. Take up the first petal from the top row and curl it from the right hand side, halfway down the side of the petal, pull out your stick and place back down. And we're going to do this for the 3rd petal on the top row and for the last petal on the top row. In the middle row we're going to take the 2nd petal, and on the bottom row we're going to take the 1st, 3rd and 5th. So all I do is I hold the stick at an angle and roll it down halfway down the petal on the right hand side, pull out the stick, and it holds its curl nicely. If you're using a really thin paper, the curls won't hold quite as well. And then for the petals we haven't curled, we'll curl in from the left hand side. So apart from these first 4, we want to turn all the others over so that the curl is facing downwards. And then taking one of the petals from our spares pile, we're going to make the little cone that we made for the book page roses. Some wallpaper paste inside the cone, take your stem, pop that in as well, bind it in place with the thread. Now, as with the book page roses, I'll put a little blob of wallpaper paste on each of the petals. And in exactly the same way, with the curl facing towards me, I will place the first petal on the stem, curl it around at the bottom, bind it in place with a thread, take the next petal and place it directly opposite, and then for all of the other petals we are doing the same process. The middle of the new petal aligns with the very edge of the previous petal. And as you make the rose, you'll feel that it feels a lot fuller in the flower head. And I'm really pulling the thread tightly so that the petals don't unravel. And then the last petal, we will put extra thread, roll it right down against the stem, snip it off and add the wallpaper paste all around the bottom, and open it up if you need to a little bit. So these roses are really quite lovely. So set that to one side with the others to dry. So to make the leaves, we need our leaf template. And in a similar way to the petals that we've just cut, fold your paper in half, well not in half, fold your paper so that the leaf template will fit nicely on the paper. And this arrangement has 2 leaves, so we need to cut 4 leaves. But I'll cut them in pairs. So you've got 1 leaf at the top and 1 leaf at the bottom, keeping them in their pairs. And using the high-tack glue, place it around the edge and up the middle of the lower 2 leaves. Want to cut off about 30 centimeters of wire. And one end of the wire we'll place on the leaf, leaving about 1.5 centimeters gap at the top. Press its pair firmly on top so the wire is sandwiched between the 2 leaves. And then using your old tea towel, just hold it firmly at the bottom there and press it in place. And the other end of the wire will attach the other leaf. If they're not quite aligned properly, I think I mixed these up a bit, then just trim them up at this stage. And I like to put a few little notches in, simply with a couple of snips of scissors. And we're good to go. Right, so we have our roses ready, she says. Here we go, picked up the wrong ones there. And what we need to do now is simply cover these with the florist tape. So the first thing we want to do is make sure all of the stems are the same length. So just line them up so that the underside of the roses are in alignment, and then just trim them to your required length with a pair of scissors. And what we need to do next is just add some florist tape. So take your florist tape, and we simply want to bind each of the roses simply by covering all of the bunchy bit underneath the rose and winding the florist tape down. Once you get to the bottom, I like to cover all of the foil, fold the florist tape over and wrap it around on itself. Bring it up a few centimetres, snip it off, and then using some PVA glue, just apply some along the edge of the florist tape. Oh, it's not coming out. Just to hold it in place. So we'll take our leaves and we want to attach them to the tea rose, and we simply want to align them up so that they're poking out over the side, and then use the florist tape just to bind them to the stem. And then we'll take our other two roses and nestle them in and bind those to the tea rose. Now they're not quite in alignment just yet, and they're a bit squished, so we'll open them up by moving them around, moving the leaves, arranging the tea rose to where we want it to be. And then we simply take our twine point it up towards the flower heads and just twist it around on itself and wind closely all the way up the stem. If you have any gaps, you can use your fingertips to pull the twine closer together. Once we get to the top here, I'll snip off a piece of twine, wrap it around and loop it under itself. Pull the twine to form a knot. So then we just need to add a little bit of ribbon. Netherfield posy.